This is Mrs. Wainwright's math class, chapter 6, 7, and 8, Packet F, lesson 2, multiply mixed numbers. Today's learning target: by the end of the lesson you should confidently be able to say, I can multiply mixed numbers. Here are some notes to remember for today's lesson. I can multiply fractions. The denominators do not need to be common. But you cannot multiply mixed numbers, and you cannot multiply fractions by whole numbers. I wonder we have that note. Well, let's see in example 1. Example number 1 says 2 2/3 times 4 1/10 equals blank. But these are mixed numbers, and I know I just read I cannot multiply mixed numbers. Let me go back and look to be sure. You cannot multiply mixed numbers. And again, these are mixed numbers. What am I going to do? That's right, David Bowie and changes. Changes. I can't multiply mixed numbers, but I can multiply fractions. So if I change the mixed number into an improper fraction, then you can multiply the improper fractions. And I remember changes. It's my change, see? And then I learned how to add before I learned how to multiply. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And now I simply follow my arrow. 3 times 2 equals 6. 6 plus this numerator of 2. 6 plus 2 equals 8. That's my new numerator. And my denominator of 3 stays the same. Times, of course, bring that multiplication sign down, and here we go on the right one. 10 times 4 equals 40. Plus that numerator of 1 equals 41. That's my new numerator. And my denominator of 10 stays the same. So I now have the problem 8/3 times 41/10. And those are two fractions, and I can multiply fractions. Well, I know how to multiply fractions. I learned that in lesson 1. I'm going to follow the X11 strategy. Okay, so for the X11 strategy, first I'm going to look at the first X, which is going to be the 8 times 10. So I'm going to find my GCF of both 8 and 10. Okay, factors of 8 are 1 and 8. Does 2 go into 8? Yes. 2 times 4. Does 3 go into 8? No. 4 is there, so I'm done. Factors of 10. 1 and 10. 2 and 5. 3 no, 4 no, 5. I am done. I don't see an 8. I don't see a 4. But I do see a 2, so my GCF is 2. Therefore, I'm going to divide my 8 divided by 2 and my 10 divided by 2. Let's go back and solve those. So 8 divided by 2, cross that out, is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now the next part of my GCF, I'm going to find my factors for the other part of my X, which is my 41 and my 3 right there. So I'm going to go through my factors of 41, and it's 1 and 41. 2 doesn't work, 3 doesn't work, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Once I get to 12, I am pretty much done, so my only factors of 41 are 1 and 41. My factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So my GCF is 1, and when my GCF is 1, I am done. So I cannot reduce 41 and 3. Now I'm going to do the 11, so I'm going to do this side right here. 4 and 3, those are actually in counting order. It's backwards counting order, but 4, 3, that is backwards counting order, so that's done. I'm going to look on this side, and I have my 41 and 5, but notice that my 41, I already did those factors, they're 1 and 41. I know that 41 is not a factor of 5, so my GCF of 41 and 5 has to be 1, and when there's a 1, I'm done. So let's rewrite what I have now. I have 4/3 times 41/5, and I'm ready to go ahead and multiply. numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So first I'm going to do my 4 times 41. I don't know that by heart, so I'll use a little scrap paper. 41 times 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So write the 164 down as my numerator. My denominator, right here, and I have 3 times 5, and 3 times 5 equals 15. So my new fraction is 164/15. Is that a common fraction? Is that gonna work in a chicken fight? No way. Right away I think, boom. 164 drops down into that division box, and I'm gonna solve this division problem. Does 15 go into 1? No. Does 15 go into 16? Yes, it does. So this is a 2 chocolate bar answer. 15 goes into 16 1 times. 1 times 15 is 15. 16 minus 15 is 1. Compare 1 is less than 15. Bring down my 4. 15 goes into 14 0 times. 0 times 15 is 0. Subtract 14 minus 0 is 14. Compare, is 14 less than 15? Yes, it is. There is nothing to bring down, so I'm going to write my remainder as a fraction. Remember, my remainder, 14, becomes my numerator. My divisor outside the box, 15, becomes my denominator. And I know that 14, 15 are in counting order, so my final answer would be 10 and 14/15. So go back to my original answer line, and I will write my answer 10 and 14/15. So 2 2/3 times 4 1/10 equals 10 and 14/15. Again, I cannot multiply mixed numbers, but I can change my mixed numbers into improper fractions. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 1 right now. Let's take a look at example number 2. Eric walked a total of 6 2/3 miles last week. Allison walked 4.5 times as much as Eric. How much did Allison walk last week? Let's go back and look at our question. We want to know how much did Allison walk last week. Let's see what we do know. Well, we know that Eric walked a total of 6 2/3 miles last week. And Allison walked 4.5 times as much as Eric. You know, in the past when we have somebody has a certain amount of times more than something else, we draw a diagram. That's going to be kind of difficult, don't you think, to draw a diagram with fractions in it and fractions of a diagram? Is there another way we could solve this? Well, we only have 2 numbers, and technically times means times, right? Multiplication. So if Allison walked 4.5 times as much as Eric, couldn't we just make this into a multiplication problem? 6 2/3, which is what Eric walked, times 4.5, since Allison walked 4.5 times as much as Eric. Let's move this problem to the next page to solve it. Uh-oh, these are mixed numbers, and I cannot multiply mixed numbers, but I can multiply fractions. So once again, I said 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. My denominator stayed the same of 3. Then I said 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And my denominator of 2 stayed the same. So I have the new problem, 20/3 times 9/2 equals blank, and I can multiply fractions, so I'm ready to solve this problem. So again, I'm going to follow the x11 strategy. This is my x, and this is going to be my 11. I'll follow that strategy to find the GCF of the numbers and fully cross-cancel or cross-simplify. So the first part of my x are my 20 and my 2. That's the green portion of my x, 20 and 2. The factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. I already have a 5, so I'm done. The factors of 2 are 1 and 2, and I am done. So I notice here, no, my GCF of 20 and 2 is 2. So I'm going to say 20 divided by 2 equals 10, and 2 divided by 2 equals 1. Now I'll move to the other portion of my x, which is my 9 and my 3. Factors of 9 are 1 and 9, and 3 times 3, I already have a 3, so I'm done. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3, 2 doesn't work, so I'm done. There's no 9, I see that my GCF is 3. So I will say 9 divided by 3 equals 3, and 3 divided by 3 equals 1. Now I go to the blue line of my 11, which is my left side, my 10 and 1. Well, when there's a 1, my fraction is done, so that's good. I'll go to the purple on my right side, my 3 and 1. Again, when there's a 1, my fraction is done, so that's good. So I'm going to rewrite my new fractions. 10 over 1 times 3 over 1 equals blank. And we know we say numerator times numerator, so 10 times 3 equals 30. Denominator times denominator, 1 times 1 equals 1. I have 30 over 1, and we know that anything over 1 is itself, so that equals the whole number of 30. When we go back to our original problem, since it was a word problem, the question says, how much did Allison walk last week? Allison walked 30. What's the unit? Doesn't say at my question, how much did Allison walk last week? Look back up at the problem by the numbers up. Next to 6 2/3, I see miles, so it would be 30 miles last week, and that's my final answer. Boy, Allison certainly got her steps in, didn't she? Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 2 right now. Finally, let's take a look at example number 3. I have 1 2/6 times 1/2 equals blank. Well, that's interesting. 1 2/6 is a mixed number. I cannot multiply by mixed numbers. But my second factor, 1/2, is a fraction, and a regular fraction is fine. So let's see how I'll solve this problem. Okay, so what did I do here? I said 6 times 1 equals 6 plus 2 equals 8. So I got my numerator, and I kept my denominator of 6 the same. So I changed my mixed number of 1 2/6 into 8/6. Of course, I bring down my multiplication sign, and 1/2 is already a fraction. No changes need to take place, so I bring it down as is. So now I have the fractions 8/6 times 1/2. That's fraction by fraction, and I know how to do this. So I'm going to use my x11 strategy, and I'm going to find my GCF for the green part of my x, which is 8 and 2. Factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. 3 doesn't work, so I'm done. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2, and I'm done. I don't see an 8, I don't see a 4, but I do see a 2, so I will divide both of these by 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the math. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. I will move on to the reddish part of my x, which is my 1 and my 6. When there's a 1, my fraction is done, so there's nothing I need to do there. Now I'm going to move on to the blue portion, which is my 4 and my 6. Those are both even numbers, so I know I must be able to divide by both of them. Again, I know I can look at this at this point and say that my GCF is 2, so I'll say 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. I move now to my purple portion of my 11 on this side, and I have a 1 and 1. Of course, when there's a 1, I'm done. So let's rewrite this very sloppy mess, because neatness makes a big difference in math. And now I now have 2/3 times 1 over 1. When we multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So I'm going to say 2 times 1 equals 2. Fraction bar. 3 times 1 equals 3. Okay, that is a proper fraction. It will work in a chicken fight, so I'm going to go ahead and put my answer of 2/3 back into my original problem. And I have my final answer, 1 2/6 times 1/2 equals 2/3. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 3 right now. So let's review. Remember, I cannot multiply by mixed numbers, but I can multiply by fractions. So if I have a mixed number, we know I need to do my changes. And once I've changed my mixed numbers into improper fractions, I use the GCF to fully simplify with the X11 pattern, and then I can go ahead and multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. If it's an improper fraction as it was here, I drop it into the division box to get my final answer. So remember, you can multiply fractions. The denominators do not need to be common. But you cannot multiply mixed numbers, and you cannot multiply fractions by whole numbers. So you would need to make a mixed number into an improper fraction with your changes. Hopefully by now you can confidently say, I can multiply mixed numbers. As always, we'll be doing practice in class. If you have any questions or need some help, please see a teacher. We will sit down and work with you for the lesson. Good luck with this lesson.